So lovely to be with you all. I want to thank you all for showing up, for being in my life, for being a part of this Sangha. And so truly, thank you. It's such an honor for us to meet in this way. And I feel really blessed by your presence. So I want to let you know that. And that includes, some of you who I've never even met before, or if you're showing up for the first time, welcome. And yeah, and all the people I know for a long time now, I just have a big sense of gratitude for you. Sometimes we forget in life how fortunate we are to be able to meet in this way, or we're able to connect to the truth. I saw this recently. I saw an interview on the Joe Rogan show, and he was interviewing this fella. I can't remember his name. Is Siddhartha something? He was doing all this research on modern day slavery, just how all these people on planet Earth are, enslaved in one form or another. And this fella had visited a mine in Africa. I can't remember if it was in the Congo or where it was, but it was a cobalt mine, and that's a mine for lithium batteries. And it showed just like thousands and thousands of people piled on top of each other, just working hammers and picks. They're trying to mine cobalt, and there were children there, and there was women, people carrying their babies on their backs while they're mining, and it was just such a horrific sight. And sometimes we forget just how utterly lucky we are to have this, what the Buddha called this precious human birth, and have the time and the space to be able to meet in this way. And so I want to let you know that I'm certainly grateful to share in this space with you. And gratitude is such a powerful grace if we can connect to it. So let's do this. Why don't we close down our eyes? Just take a couple of deep, full breaths. And sometimes, we don't feel grateful because we're suffering so much. And if that's us, if we're suffering, let us breathe deeply. If we're human, let us breathe deeply, inviting our nervous system to relax and to let go, and softening throughout the body. And I just invite you to meet any and all parts of yourself with love, with kindness, with respect. Stay gentle, loving, respect for your physical body, all that it does. Gentle, loving respect for the beauty of your heart. Really acknowledging that and having just a quiet sense of gratitude that you were given a beautiful heart. We could have been like the Grinch and received a heart that was 2 sizes too small. But we're not. We're not the Grinch. And so even if we're feeling sometimes a little Grinchy, can we soften that, and can we be grateful for the beauty and the innocence of our heart? The beauty and the innocence of our heart. Be grateful for this moment, the quietude that's here, that's always here in the present moment. Even if it's loud outside, there's a vast, spacious quietude holding us, nurturing us, gently supporting us. We have gratitude for our home, the roof over our head, the food in the refrigerator, the food in our stomach. We have gratitude for our vehicle, whether it's a car or a bicycle or our 2 feet. We have gratitude for this vehicle of the human body that gets us around and that moves. It's helping us to have this experience of incarnation here on planet Earth. I invite you to breathe deeply and fully and to have gratitude for your friends, for your family, and all that they've brought you, even if it's been challenging. Have gratitude for the good times and the challenging times. Let's take a deep breath and have gratitude for the sunshine and the vast night sky, the trillions and trillions of stars, the big full moon, and all that life has brought us. If you feel into this quality of gratitude, you may notice your heart growing, expanding, lighting up. And if any of you have a hard time with gratitude, it's just a sign that your body needs more compassion, your mind needs more compassion. And that's okay. There's room for that too. There's room if we need to complain, if we need to fall on our knees. Let us have gratitude that there's space here for that. There's space here for that. So opening our hearts and opening our crowns a little bit more fully, and let's call forth the grace of the Divine Mother to come into us, blessing us, opening our hearts, bringing forth a sense of spiritual warmth and illumination. And gratitude for the Divine Mother, the immense love and compassion she shines into us through this Sangha and these meetings. Deep gratitude for Christ, for Buddha, for Nityanandaji, Satguru, Maharaj. Gratitude for Yogi Ram Surat Kumar, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Gratitude for Skandaji. All the great ones, for Hilda, all the great ones who come and flood us with light, because we sure do need it. We sure do need it. We're happy to receive it. And so just gently reflecting on your life and gratitude for your home. Maybe you have a little dog or a big dog or a boat. And gratitude for your sailboat. Whatever it is, the beautiful just immense, magnificent display of nature, whatever it is you call it out. Do you have gratitude for it? I hope this makes you smile. And so, you can open your eyes if you like. And it's, again, so lovely to be here. So gracious to be able to meet with you all this way. So last week we spoke a little bit about, I'm going to press all the right buttons here on Zoom, make sure I'm doing this right. Last week we spoke about, what you want. Like, what is this life about? And this is one of the primary spiritual questions for us all is what is this life about? What is it about? Like, what are you here to realize? I was at the Home Depot today, and I'm picking up a couple of things for this house I'm trying to remodel. And I ran into an old friend I do jujitsu with, and we were just talking about, like, this is such a great time to own a gym. Like, the first of the year, that's when everyone's signing up. Everyone has their New Year's resolutions. Everyone's wanting to get fit. Well, we might take that on and really look at, well, what does it mean to be spiritually fit? It sounds silly to say that, but I've always thought of myself as very spiritually fit, very spiritually fit. And, a big part of that, like, if we look at, well, what makes someone physically fit is the fact that they show up every day, they work out every day, they dedicate their life to this. And when you see someone who works out every day, like, there's normally no question about it. Like, you can see it in their body, you can see it in their form, you can feel it in their presence. There's a power there. And so the same is true on the spiritual path. In the spiritual path, we really might ask ourselves, well, what is my life actually about? What is my life actually about? What is it actually about? Many of us, our life, unfortunately, is all about us, our own personal wants and desires. Like some people, on that who play that Twitter game, like, their whole life is about them being right, about being right. Like, imagine if that was like really what drove you in this lifetime, is being right online. I imagine some of us probably have lost sleep over little arguments we've gotten, or big arguments we've gotten in online, or just arguing with someone we don't even know. And like, I know I've lost sleep because I've wanted to be right, or I've wanted to be in control. And how many of us, like, if we were truly honest, like, this is what our life is about. It's about us wanting to control our experience. But the thing about this world is a great, great mystery. It's an immense mystery. an immense mystery. And our human egoic nature, our mental mind, doesn't want it to be a mystery. It wants it to be all controlled, all planned. We want to know the right answer every time. We want there to be nothing unpredictable. Now, I was listening to someone speak earlier today about manifesting the life that you want. And as they were speaking, they said something quite beautiful. They said, well, it's good for you to envision it and then to sit back and let the great mystery show you how that thing unfolds. And so I thought, we'd carry on from last Sunday, where we might close our eyes again and just really ask ourselves, what do I want this year? What do I actually want? What is a non-negotiable? What am I wanting to realize? What am I wanting to step into? What am I wanting to manifest? And can you really envision it? And can you see that you are worthy of your heart's desire? I didn't say your ego's desire, but your heart's desire. Your heart's desire is in alignment with the will of God. Your heart's desire is God's desire. And can you open and see that you are worthy of this realization, or this healing, or this great step forward on the path? Can you open to this in a humble way, knowing and trusting that this great mystery is on your side? Is on your side. And now can you take a deep breath and release and release that which you desire, that which you aspire toward? Can you release it before the great mystery and allow the mystery to show you how this thing comes forward? How this thing comes forward. And you have to forgive me, my little doodles, and he's barking a little bit in the background. He's had a tough week. So one of the things I was praying for this week, I took Doodles in because he was having trouble peeing, and he had all these kidney stones in him, and they take him into the vet, and they had emergency surgery. Cost a ridiculous amount of money. But I was praying and praying that he healed quickly, and that I'm always nervous when anyone goes under. I thought if I go under, with anesthesia, I might not come back. I just drift off to heaven. So I told Doodles he wasn't allowed to drift off to heaven. He had to come back and be with us a couple more years, maybe a bunch more years. And so it's very humbling to be human and to come into our heart and to pray, to connect for God, to put our requests at the feet of the Divine Mother, to put our request at the feet of this vast mystery. But I encourage you to have a relationship, a direct relationship with God. And whether you speak to the great mystery, or whether you speak to the Divine Mother, or whether you speak to Jesus, Nityananda, or Saint Francis, whoever it is, I encourage you to open your heart and to connect. and to see what comes forward. See what comes forward. It's so interesting that we live in a time, like this is probably the only time in history, like where, people questioned God, the existence of God. We've gotten so up in our head and so wrapped up in our technology and so lost in our scientific brain. But before this, say before, 400 years ago or so, it's like for hundreds of thousands of years, people related to God all day long. God in the sun, God in the moon, God in the ocean, God in the wind, God in the earth, God the provider, God the protector, God the giver of life, and God the taker of life. And it's only been in the last several hundred years that we've gotten lost in our thinking minds. And with that comes, so much anxiety. Anxiety is often a sign. We're disconnected from our heart. We're disconnected from our strength. We're disconnected from Buddha nature. We're disconnected from this vast mystery of being. And so this is a great question for us to look at is who am I and what is my life about? What direction am I walking? What direction am I walking? Am I walking toward the truth? Or am I walking toward like egoic arrogance? I've had a number of people I met with in the last couple of months who showed up to meet with me, and I was kind of confused why they wanted to meet with me. Because they wanted to show up and they wanted to argue, they wanted to be right, they wanted to be better than me. Oh, geez, there's better ways to spend your time than paying all this money to meet with somebody and to argue, to fight, to be arrogant. Like if we're going to show up in a space like this, let us show up with humility. Let us come to listen, to learn. And I speak to myself here as well. Like I listen to grace, I listen to the voice of God. I listen for the truth. Like none of this belongs to Craig. I open and I listen. And if we want to follow the truth, we cannot be in our arrogant thinking mind or egoic nature that I'm always amazed how hard people want to hold on to their critic or to being right. Sometimes people really want to hold on to their suffering, like they're greatly attached to their suffering. Gosh, that's a terrible thing to hold on to. It's a terrible thing, to hold on to our suffering. It's such a relief to let it drop, to let it die. Such a relief to not listen to the voice of addiction or to the voice of fear. Some people I've met with have been attached to, I've suffered the most. I've suffered the most. And again, like with something like that, with if we're holding on to I've suffered the most, It's just a sign that your body needs love, your mind needs love, that you need compassion. If you're holding on, it's a sign your body needs lots and lots of love. Maybe a really, really warm bubble bath. A really warm bubble bath. It's hard to hold on to suffering in a bubble bath. And sometimes I've got a little girl at my house, and sometimes if she's has like all this energy and really amped up, and maybe she's had too much sugar, she's been up too long, it's like, oh, we just get some bubbles in a bathtub and throw her in it, and like in 3 seconds she's as happy as can be. Puts the bubbles on her face and on top of her head, makes a beard like her daddy. And and as human beings, like, or as adults, like, sometimes we forget that the story and the commentator in our mind isn't reality. Sometimes we need to get out of that fantasy land of our critical mind or judgmental mind or the commentators, and go get in a bubble bath or go on a walk, or fall down in the snow. We had a couple warm days here in Colorado, and my little girl, she was out running around in her socks and walking in the snow in her socks, and I started to like just go into the habit of being a dad and telling her no, but she was having so much fun. I was just like, oh, what the heck? Walk around and get wet socks in the snow, and the sun was bright and shining, and she was so precious. And I'd stop and take a picture. So anyways, but I encourage you to continue to sit with this question of, who am I? Like, am I a divine being? Or am I an egoic being? Who am I? Am I the thinker in my head? Or am I the vast space of awareness? Am I a disgruntled, irritable, egoic nature? Or am I this gentle, tender, loving heart? Am I the one who lives by, just is habitually moved by fear? Am I the timeless, eternal, indestructible, ineffable Buddha? And if I am this Buddha, this ineffable, indescribable, indestructible Buddha, how shall I live? How shall I live? Or am I a worshiper of the one and only Lord Jesus Christ? Or am I the Christ? Am I the Christ? And if I am the Christ, well, how does the Christ live? How does it speak? How does it walk? How does the Christ love? How does the Christ love? I heard this funny inquiry question the other day. As I was listening to Carolyn Mace and the great and intuitive healer. And one of the questions she was asking some of her students was, is it hard for you to be kind? It's like, God, what a powerful question. It was like kind of like funny. It was like, it's shocking. Is it hard for you to be kind? Like, when is it hard for you to be kind? And we're all wanting to be the Christ. And, well, what's in the way? Is the Grinch in the way? Did our heart shrink 2 sizes too small? Like, what got in the way of us being kind? What got in the way of us being kind? What got in the way? Like, what is it that we trip over? Sometimes it's we get just so stressed. We're projected so far in the future. We're so worried about our bank account or whatever it is that we have trouble being kind. We have trouble being kind. Okay. I'm going to look here in the comments here. Chris writes, no man, no woman can suffer in a bubble bath. It's actually impossible. Yeah. Chris, I thought I saw you come into the Zoom room, but I opened it up. I apologize. I had the door closed for a minute. And Louise, thank you so much for those gifts. My daughter was so happy, like so utterly happy. And you can come over to my house sometime and clean up all the glitter. Come clean up all the glitter. So anyways, but truly, Louise, thank you. Okay. Let's hear what David says here. He says, God chose to jump into this life and feel everything that I am feeling, to have experienced everything I've been through. And he loves being me. Yeah, David, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I like that. Kyle writes, here's a question. Hi, Craig. Is it possible to apologize and forgive people when we enter heaven? What do you mean, Kyle? Do you mean people on earth, or do you mean other people in heaven that we're meeting? I can tell you this. I know firsthand that people come. Like, sometimes I sit and it's very common with me. I don't know why this happens, but a lot of times someone's father or mother or sister or brother who passed on to the other side. Like if I'm meeting with someone in a session, like sometimes their relative comes forward, their father, and apologizes for what they did. So there's this funny thing that happens with us, like when we die. Maybe it's not a funny thing, but it's an interesting thing that when we leave our human body, we're just in our true nature. We're in our true nature. We're in our soul. And when we make our way into heaven and we reflect, like often, I think almost everyone is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was such an idiot. I'm so sorry that I was so mean, that I was so cruel. I'm so sorry I had trouble being kind to you. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to be a better father or mother or sister or brother. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to be a better partner. I'm so sorry. And so oftentimes people come forward and they apologize. Like they're like saying it in my ear, and then I'm having to share it with whoever's in the room. It's a very common thing that we can carry, like just a little bit of regret to heaven, like a little bit. It's not going to be a huge amount. Let me back up that a little bit. I'm going to say this, that most of our pain and suffering gets left here on planet Earth. But there's some things where it's like, not little things, but big things, where that person will come forward and be very apologetic. So Kyle, I think, did you just have your hand up? Yes. Okay. Let's just hear from you. Let's see if we can get this straightened out. Well, I am just having some trouble here. Here we go. You there, Kyle?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I kind of meant was like, like a former best friend or like an ex-partner or your mom or something, and you go to heaven and you realize like you hurt him in XYZ way, and you want to apologize and know that they have heard your apology, whether or not they're in heaven or on earth at that moment.
Yeah. 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 I'm just going to tell you this, my friend. In heaven, communication is quite easy. Quite easy. Quite easy. What's hard is for people on earth to hear it, And it's hard for people to hear it in their humanity. But I'll say this, that like sometimes, like I've worked with people who are really dense, that like say maybe someone I've gotten in an altercation with. And let's say we're going to both be on planet Earth here. Let's forget about heaven for a moment. And they're really dense. And by that, I don't mean like they just have like thick walls around their ego. And like often I'll just talk to their soul and I'll tell them I'm sorry. And it will go right into their soul. And sometimes that will help dislodge some of the denseness and the armoring, and it can shift things in our relationship. And sometimes that might take 6 months or a year, here on planet Earth. When I talk to individuals in that way, I just kind of talk to them through it sounds silly. It sounds like something from Care Bears, but like a rainbow bridge going from my heart to their heart, or I just talk from my soul to their soul, apologizing for hurting them. I've done that a lot. Yeah, I've done that a lot. And I've also found like if you're open and you know how to listen, sometimes you'll hear things, and whether you hear things from heaven, like I hear things from heaven all the time, and or hear things from earthly beings, or you hear the voice of God, and it all comes down to if you're open. But in regards to like if you're in heaven and you want to talk to someone else in heaven, it's just like, it's kind of like that old saying, like only say the name and I shall be there. It's like like you say the name of Jesus, you're with Jesus. You say the name of your father, you're with your father, or whoever it is you're wanting to connect with. And the thing that people don't realize is like when we go into the other realms, we are so light. Like there's not much of like our egoic weight that we carry with us. In fact, like not really any egoic weight, but within the experience of our soul is still like some layers of personality, like essential aspects of your personality, and then some essential layers of your growth and your trajectory. And this is why sometimes when we incarnate again, like if we died a violent death and we go to heaven, we do a tremendous amount of healing work. When we come back into form, like sometimes we have some of those memories from the previous incarnation that messes with us, and that evolution continues. So anyways, I hope that's helpful. There's a wonderful book. I could be wrong about the author's name, but I think it's Helen Greaves. She was a nun, and it's something like Where There Is Light or Let There Be Light. And she was like this nun who had this incredible psychic intuitive ability, and she had all these connections with heaven. And she kind of outlines like all these different heaven realms, what people's experiences are in heaven. And in my experience, like it's been real similar. Just if you're open, you can know these type of things. You experience them, and you get a sense of what it's like. The other thing too is like the more open you are, well, heaven starts just coming into you, giving birth into you and in your everyday life. And so part of the skill of that's developed of a life of mastery is you can kind of float in different heaven realms, kind of traverse them. So anyways, yeah, beautiful, beautiful, Kyle. Okay. Here's from Patrizia. Craig, can you once again speak about the transition from here to heaven in more detail? Yeah. Well, the transition is different, Patrizia, for each person. Like, you know, some of you in the Sangha know Butch, like Butch, who passed this last year. He was a sailor, and he was just this really wild guy. But he had such a tender heart, and life was really hard to Butch. Was really, really hard to him, and that like brings tears to my eyes, like how hard it was. And me and Butch spent a lot of time together, and I was with him when he passed on. And so like the last couple hours, you know, was just horrific, with him just gasping for air and just like really hard. But like on a physical level, it was kind of horrific. But like when I felt into him, like 90% of him was already like just like vast and spacious and free. So he had already like begun to enter heaven before he died. And then his last moments when he let go, he was like one of those like if you fill up a balloon with air and but you don't tie the knot, you just let it go. He was just like running just like this, and just so utterly happy to be out of his body. And it was just he was a kundalini guy too, and he just had like so much kundalini light. It was just like a rocket ship, and he was just kind of shooting all over the place. And then eventually he made himself into the realm of heaven. And for some people, like if you're ready to go, that you go very quickly. It's the people who hold on to this life and to this form. Like my grandma, she did this crazy thing. My grandfather, like my family, my grandparents, like they just grew up in just total poverty. And my grandfather, he died first. And he said something funny to my grandma. He said something like, spend up all the money before you die. And she stayed here on earth. Like she went to hospice 8 times. 8 times. So she would just go right up to the edge of death, and then, you know, come back, like heal a little bit. And just, you know, she wanted to spend every single penny she had. She wanted to get her money's worth here on planet Earth. And then she passed on. But like the trouble is when a human being holds on to this lifetime, or holds on to this form, or holds on to this body, and that's when it's hard. Like a lot of people wait because they want everyone to come home to say goodbye. And so they're just like, nope, I'm not going to die. I'm going to wait till all the grandchildren come and you know, hold my hand and say goodbye, you know, before they leave. Some people hold on with spite, and some people hold on out of fear. And the thing that we want, like in the in the Zen tradition, there's this old teaching to die before we die. Well, what does that mean? Basically, it means we face our greatest fears. We face our greatest attachments, and we let go of them. And when we let go of them, when we're not afraid of death, when we're not afraid of letting go, when we're not afraid of God, we're not afraid of the realization of what we are, the transition is very smooth, very easy, very easy. You know, there's all these books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and they talk about all these different realms we can go through. Like a lot of the realms are there if we have lots of confusion. You know, like if we end our life, you know, like through suicide or something, often we end up in a confused land, and it's very disorienting for a period of time, and a bunch of angels have to show up and kind of guide us, to some of the higher heaven realms. But, you know, sometimes we can carry, like some people are very stubborn, they have a stubborn soul, and they carry denseness with them into the next incarnation. And so, they carry denseness with them to heaven. And that really slows things down, And the idea here is that we don't hold on to anything. we get to know God while we're here on planet Earth. We get to know our being. We get to know the indestructible nature of what we are. And so then it's easy to go from, the earthly plane to the heavenly plane, because we're already there. We're already really open. Really open. And it's not such a shock to us. Not such a shock. Okay. Let's see here. Let's hear from another question here. All right. What is the realm of heaven? I'm not, let me try that question again. Melania. So there's countless realms of heaven. So let me tell you all this, that and we see that, like we see that on retreat. Like some night we get the heaven realm of Christ. Other days we get the heaven realm of Buddha nature. Sometimes we get the heaven realm of Skanda, or the Divine Mother. And, many of us, like we have a particular realm. I shouldn't say many of us, all of us have a particular realm that we come from. Like some people I work with have so much light in their consciousness, like in their true nature. And when it's like that, like we come from an angelic realm or an absolute realm, some people are really grounded with this depth of being. They come from like more of a Buddha land. Some people are Christ consciousness beings, and they come from that type of realm. And so like we have a realm that's like our home. That's our home, and it feels so good when you connect to that. And if you get to know to it, if you're open to it, that realm can be with you here while you're on Earth. It can impregnate like the cells of your being in your body. It can be quite extraordinary. If you're with someone, like Alma. Let's see, a picture of Alma here. She has her own heaven realm. And when you come into her company, like you feel it, like it's just this container of light is just all around her. It's just exquisite, so exquisite. And she manifests it here on planet Earth, and it's like a couple football fields around her. It's just flooded with light when you come into her presence, and it's just so wonderful. And so again, like if we make this very practical, back to that question, like who are you and what is your life about? What is your life about? When you know who and what you are, and you step into this depth of being, the next question becomes, well, can this depth of being manifest? Can it flow? Can it radiate from my presence? So that I can be a blessing, so this can be a blessing for this world. For this world. Okay. Hey, Craig, one thing came up in me just a few days ago. I died in my dream and it was really confusing. Like someone hit my head and I died thinking, who was that person who hit me? And even after dying, I was attached to the question. Can you please elaborate on this? There are many things there that I wasn't able to grasp. Well, it sounds like there was some aspect of your consciousness that was just really engaged with life, and I don't want to say with revenge or with getting back, but like we have to be careful here. We have to be careful, how we play our hand in life. Like, do we want our last thought to be, who hit me? I need to find them and make them pay. Like if that's going to be in our consciousness, like that's like a Liam Neeson movie or something. It's just like someone hurt me or hurt my family. I need to go find them and make them pay. It sounds like there's something in your consciousness that's tripping over that, and it could be from a previous incarnation that you were hurt greatly and you died with the thought of vengeance or wanting to get revenge. But you can ask yourself, like, is this your truth? Like, is revenge my truth, or I need to know who harmed me? Like, I need to know because why? Because why? Like, if we're going to go to heaven, the first thing on your mind is, I want you to be excited to see God. I want you to be excited to see God. But by all means, I mean, you can forgive yourself for being human and having a thought of wanting to know who harmed you. Like that's just showing like there's perhaps an aspect of your ego that's in fear, aspect of your ego that's attached to fighting. Maybe there's just something floating around in you that feels like you were taken advantage of, and sometimes it's that is there's this feeling that we were taken advantage of. Again, the great question is, well, can I let that go? Can I let that go? Okay. See, it's getting kind of late in the evening. Let's hear from Aaron. Aaron, are you here?
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Yeah, I really got on today, Craig, just to get some love from you and the Sangha. My dad's wife passed away a couple months ago. And yeah, we just traveled to Florida to do the celebration of life, which I officiated, which is beautiful. But I don't think I knew quite how much it was impacting me till I got into some fights with my partner. And it was like, oh, whoa, I'm really in a very tender place right now. And I didn't track that. And so just feeling a little, Yeah, like a little beyond my capacity. Like I wasn't making enough space during the time I was there and this kind of thing to really digest what was coming
Yeah.
forward. And of course, I was with a lot of family as well.
Yeah.
And I'm on a whole ancestral healing journey and blah 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 blah. So it's just like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
lot going on. And I got overwhelmed. And I'm still I mean, I just got in from Florida a few hours ago, so I'm just
Yeah.
still feeling that. And I don't think I'm, again, like I said, I'm really mostly just looking for love and holding a little
Yeah.
bit from you and the Sangha. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal. So this was your dad's wife.
Mm.
So what is that? Is that a stepmom?
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
step. So
Yeah. Yeah. And so like whenever death comes, it's like we need to take time. We need to spend time in silence and allow ourselves to fully grieve. But grieving, like we don't understand grieving in this culture. We don't make space for it. We don't make room for it. It's beautiful that you were able to show up and like you said, officiate the ceremony, help take part in it, and be a service. But sometimes when we're caregivers or we're beings of light, we forget just to deeply check in with ourselves or give us the time and the space that we need. And grief is, I mean, it's a wild card. Like we never know how it's going to come. I can remember when my father died, and I'd be doing fine and cooking some lunch or something, and I'd go out to the garage to get a tool or something, and I would just see like an old patch that he had on his motorcycle jacket, and next thing you know, I'm like laying on the garage floor just crying. And my soup's burning on the stove. I'm getting ready to burn the house down. It's like just like often it just catches us off guard. It just because it's buried in all these different places in our body, in our cells, in our form, and just out of nowhere, it often hits us. And as human beings, like in this culture, we're just taught to kind of keep it all together. And beings of light, we kind of sometimes we keep it together a little too much. We don't allow for our humanity to do what it needs to do. And like often, like my daughter does this. If she has an emotion within her and she doesn't know how to express it, maybe she doesn't even know it's there, she'll pick a fight with me or pick a fight with her mom. And I'm always like, what the hell? You like, what are we fighting about this? And then all of a sudden, like she tries to push me to holler at her. When I holler at her, then she starts crying. And then, because she's crying, then daddy goes and picks her up and pulls her close and is holding her. Like, sweet, this is a very inefficient way, like to, act out, but like we have this unconscious mind, and it's like, basically like human beings, like emotions are in us and they build and build and build with pressure. And sometimes we use little fights and little irritability, or we pick fights with people and we want them to explode, because when they explode, we fight back. And in the fighting back, like we have lots of tears and lots of letting go. And it's just a funny thing that mammals do. And like dogs do this too. Like if they have a little too much energy, one will go up and bite the other, and then the big dog will bite it back, and then it'll start crying and shaking. But it's like it's using the other person to help release just some of the pressure that's there. And we don't even know we're doing it sometimes. And the big thing is to forgive ourselves for being human, to forgive ourselves for being confused, to forgive ourselves for having a heart and not knowing how much pain we're in, and just to let it flow. Just to let it flow. And to let it be messy. I mean, when my father died, I was a hot mess just for months and months and months. Like when I went through a divorce, it was a hot mess for a year and a half, and to allow for that. But sometimes we have a spiritual idea that I have to be like this. And I found that that's not so helpful. It's not so helpful to kind of have that top down, I should be a certain way. Like when we're grieving, we should be however we are. Like whatever wants to come, we let it come, and just allow ourselves to be a little messy and to let things empty out and let the things break at the seams or the cracks, and just let it pour out, and trust that it's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. I mean, grieving isn't a mistake. But sometimes we have these spiritual ideas that we need to be perfect in some certain way. And like that's the thing about grief, is it's such a huge thing. It's basically the human psyche coming into contact with something that it will never understand. There was someone here, and now they're not. And now they're not. And where did they go? And I don't know. And I don't know what's happening. And it brings up that thing within us that, like, we're here in this moment, but we might not be in the next moment. Like, we might not be in the next moment. And our egoic nature it keeps trying to build this world of solidity. And one of the things that death does, that grief does, is it just pokes a big hole in that balloon. That this world is not solid, this life is not solid, our relationships are not solid, our experience is not solid. Like our finances aren't solid, our body isn't solid, our home isn't solid. It's like nothing is solid. Nothing is solid. And like our ego just holds this kind of like rigid glue together, thinking all life is solid, and then it gets popped. And when it pops, like there's melting, there's tears, there's confusion, there's the feeling of the ground falling out from under us. And it's such a great thing, like in regards to spiritual awakening, for us to honor this truth. But we live in a culture that doesn't honor it. That doesn't honor it. We live in a culture that hides death in every way. That hides it or sugarcoats it. Like even like I can remember being at the funeral home, and they try to like distract you and distract like the moment that there's a body in the other room, and they're like, well, let's talk about a coffin. Like, do you want a fancy coffin? Like, let's make this look really good. Let's like nice polished sheen on the coffin. It's like, let's do lots of flowers, and let's do this and let's do that. And what kind of food do you want, and this and that. And it's like all these distractions, they try to like just polish it. And even just like what they do and with a body is crazy. It's crazy. It's just like that body is not the person. It's not the person. It's like I've told my family, as soon as I'm dead, light me on fire. Like, light me on fire. Just throw me in the ocean, beat me to the sharks, just something. Something. But like, let's be real about it. But we're not real. We're not real about it. And, at some point, like our humanity, it cracks and realizes this is a truth. Like death is life. It's a part of life. It's a part of our experience. Nothing is solid. Nothing is solid. And I love that person so much. Like I love them so much. And they're gone. And to feel all that, to experience all that with an open heart. With an open heart. And when we do that, we cry, we grieve, we smile, we laugh, we cry, there's just all this flowing of emotion. I mean, I had a tremendous amount of emotion at the event this week. I was holding on to doodles, and I had to give doodles over to the nurse who was gonna, administer him anesthesia, and I was like, I just started falling apart because it's like this could be the last time I hold my sweet little boy. It's could be the last time. And I knew it like all day long when he was out with the surgery. I knew like he might not come back. Like he might not. Like I might have to talk to him in heaven. And like if you see, like there's this kind of like funny laughter in my voice of like there's a shuddering of the ego. Yeah. Like what ego's like, this is solid, this is life, this is how things are. But with me, like I laugh all the time because there's just this knowing, like a breaking of the glue in that laughter of like, yeah, we don't know what life is. And we don't know what it's going to bring. We don't know what's going to happen. And we don't know what will come the next moment. And we know that, that you loved her, that you loved your stepmom. Like we know that. And that she's gone, and that hurts. Like we know that. Yeah. And the willingness to feel that, to experience that, and to not turn away. To not turn away. And there's this wonderful thing, especially around like in the first like the first year of someone in heaven, if you're open, like you can talk to them because they're still kind of near earth. You can talk to them and you can feel her presence and connect with her and just send love her way, and she'll be sending love your way, and just to give and to receive. And that's one of the things that I really invite people to do, is to continue that connection, from heart to heart, from spirit to spirit. So anyways, it's so good to be with you, Aaron.
Too, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of love. Lots of love. Yeah, the big thing is, the big thing when someone passes is to spend lots of time in silence, and lots of time alone. And like here in the other room, my wife, she has all these pictures of her grandma, because her grandma recently passed. And she lights all these candles. There's these pictures and then all these candles. And it's just a sweet way of honoring her and her presence. And I got Grandma Betty, I got her this orchid, because she's Hawaiian, she loved orchids. And I got the flower for my wife, but just in memory of Grandma Betty. And the flower is just so lit up. Like normally I buy like one of these orchids like once or twice a year, and they bloom a little bit and then they quickly die. But this one is just so lit up. And I'm just like, oh, Grandma Betty's talking to you. She's just, I'm saying this to my wife, just send in this love, into our house, into Ashley, and just loving her and just radiating through this flower. And if we're open, like we can connect in this way. And it's so it's really sweet, but like sometimes we have to carry around the tissue box because there's just so many tears. And I'm really comfortable with crying because I've grieved so much, but a lot of people aren't. And so I encourage us to become more comfortable with this part of life. Okay, let's hear from Catherine. Catherine, are you here?
I was hoping you wouldn't call on me.
That I would not?
Yeah, no. It's important that I say what I feel like I should answer. I feel like you might have already answered this question, but I think I finally was able to like admit to myself that I can't do science like I was doing it before, and I don't even know if like I want to, because it just doesn't feels like death now.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of gonna ask you, like, how do you follow those breadcrumbs to like what you're actually supposed to be doing?
Well, if you want to know what you're supposed to be doing, you ask your heart.
Yeah.
And so if you ask your heart, like, what's Catherine supposed to be doing? What does your heart say?
Holding space for folks that are really going through hard stuff.
Yeah. And so can you begin walking in that direction? Can you begin walking in that direction? And so whatever that looks like. And so whether it means going, I know you just finished graduate school. That means going back to graduate school, or, maybe finding a job where they just, give you the training right now, or, starting your own coaching practice, or whatever it is, walking in that direction. But, like if you're, the thing I recommend, like if you're just like discovering this, like, okay, like science is not my thing because it feels dead, then I encourage you to open your heart. And, if you want to hold space, then to look at and experience like a lot of different programs, whether it's just like trainings, whether it's online courses, whether it's just exploration, whether it's meeting with people, and just see where your heart lights up the most, and see where your heart crystallizes and says, oh yeah, like I could really do this. Like someone, Val in the song, like she's studying cranial sacral, and it's like it's such a beautiful training, such a beautiful gift, to do that. I mean, there's a lot of healers in the Sangha, but to find something that resonates with you and to dive deep into it, but to give yourself permission to explore a little bit over this next year, like what is the truest fit for me? Like what's the best way, and give yourself permission to play around with it. And the thing that a lot of spiritual people think, like in this world, like you come to the truth, okay, I'm done with science. And like, if you have like a giant trust fund and you can quit it right away and just follow your dream, great. But for most of us, like we have to like continue in the thing that we don't really like so much for a period of time and explore, the thing we do want. And then, get training in that, and then begin to transition, out of one into the other. But one thing is for certain, that if science feels dead, its days are numbered. Like we just can't stay in it for very long. And I encourage you not to be discouraged about it, because that's what a lot of people do, is they focus on what they don't like. What I encourage you to do is to let yourself be an explorer and to have a little fun, kind of just stumbling around and exploring what's out there and what modality, like how you'd like to hold space for others, and walk in that direction. And then what's important, Catherine, to know is that when you listen to this voice, you're listening to the voice of God. And because you're listening to the voice of God, I don't want you to have any fear of it not working out. I want you to imagine it is the will of God and it will work out. But this is back like what we were saying in the beginning, where, okay, you have this vision, you're putting it before God, and then God's going to show you how it unfolds. So this great mystery is going to show you how this thing unfolds. And, that's the path. That's this life. That's the mystery of life. It's God's going to show you how this thing unfolds. And so to have total faith in yourself, total faith in your vision. But what I'm going to tell you, though, is the ego holds on to time, and it thinks in terms of like time and money and like really specific details. What I want you to do is step back and hold the big picture. This is my truth. My job is to follow this truth. And so, just ask, well, what is my next step? And then what is my next step after that? What's the next step after that? And again, just following this. And don't be too, how should I say this? Don't be too shocked or too hurt by letting go of your, like the science thing. Just go with the flow. Just go with the flow with it. Just go with the flow. But sometimes people get really, like, they really hold on, or they beat themselves up, or they get, what I'd encourage you to do is like allow some of your fire to lead you in a lighthearted way, and to go out and have a little bit of fun over the next year or so, and just let it all sort itself out. Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Craig.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I laugh a little bit when you said that I feel science is dead. It's yeah, I mean, the problem with science in the Western world is we're just so in our head with it. We forgot how to be a scientist of the heart, or a scientist of the heart. Then life is just like some magical exploration. But in the Western world, we're so mental and we're so analytical about everything. It just like squishes the heart out of it, and it just feels so utterly dead. Like whenever I hang out with like real, like cold-hearted, scientific folks, I'm always like, oh my God, it's a hell realm, literally hell realm. And I used to be pretty good at science back when I was in college, but just I just don't have that mind anymore. Okay. Justina writes, is it possible to be completely unattached to people and things as humans? We always have some level of attachment. Justina, if I reach into you and pull out your heart and throw it in the ocean, you'll never be attached to anyone here on planet Earth. You'll also be dead. Go to heaven. So, no, my dear, it's like the Buddha had all these teachings about being attached. I think I've used the word attached a bunch in this satsang. There's a lot of confusion around attachment. So as human beings, just in a human way, we are mammals and we are relational creatures. Attachment is a great thing in relationship. So there's healthy attachment, and then there's like egoic attachment, where we are attached to things. We want to possess them, hold on to them forever, but things that we can't hold on to forever. But like if you ever get married and have children, if you're not attached to your children, like you go to a psychologist, they'll diagnose you as a psychopath or something like horrific. Like if you're married and you're not attached to your partner, like again, like the psychologist is going to call you a psychopath. Like we want to have some level of healthy attachment. So healthy attachment is like glue. And this glue, it keeps, say, like a family system together. It helps us to protect, like our children or our partner. It's like, if I just thought Doodles was just some random dog, I wasn't going to spend all my money on him to have this surgery so that he can keep living. I'd just be like, oh, he's just some random dog. But like I have all these bucks that walk through my yard right now. These big racks on their head, and I'm not attached to them at all. Like they're not my bucks. They're just they belong fully to themselves and fully to God. But to have a healthy sense of attachment to my child or to my wife, or it's good. It's a good thing. Like you want to have some level of attachment. Now, when we do that thing that they do on the radio, you know what they do on the radio? What's it called? Breaking up is hard to do, right? You know that? Like when that happens, we feel the glue of attachment ripping, and that hurts. That hurts. But the great question is can we keep loving despite that glue of attachment ripping? Because, we're going in one direction, the other person's going in another direction. Can we keep loving? And can we be courageously open? So instead of thinking about not having attachment, I want you to imagine just grieving the loss. That's what grieving is letting go of attachment when it's time. So feeling the loss of that and continuing to open. So that's the question is it possible? I'm going to reframe your question here. Is it possible to be completely open and to continue to love people that I was once greatly attached to and can no longer reasonably be attached to because they've moved on and I've moved on? Like, how's that for an inquiry? It's can I be completely loving and open? And I can tell you this, Justina, like my greatest spiritual lessons, like some of the greatest ones, were from the ripping apart of attachment. Just a relationship died, and the other person moved on, and I had a real broken heart. I wanted to turn into a Zen robot monk but I have a heart and I love. I love the people I'm with. I can't not love them. I can't not be attached to them. It's like it gets unhealthy and it gets weird if we hold on and we're attached in the wrong ways. Like I have a daughter who's 21, and she lives a couple blocks away from me. And she called me, I think yesterday, said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to Texas." As if like I'm crazy attached, and say, "No, you're not. You have to stay in the neighborhood with your daddy." Like that'd be weird and creepy. I told her, "Oh, have a great time." And I checked the weather for her to make sure she, wasn't going to get in trouble on her drive down there. I said, "Yeah, go have a great time." And so I love her in an open-hearted way. And she has the freedom to be who she's going to be, and I fully support her. I didn't ask that she grow up and be a nun. I did ask that when I was a young father, but that was a joke. But I didn't demand that she was a nun, and I want her to live her life and live her truth and move on and grow and flourish. But am I attached to her being in my life and us having a good relationship? And yeah, of course. Am I attached to wanting to support her and want the best for her and give her whatever financial, mental, emotional, spiritual support I can? Of course. Does it hurt my feelings if she's mean to me? Of course. And so there's some level of attachment, healthy attachment, that's necessary. And, you know, not many spiritual people talk about this. A lot of spiritual people don't have families. They don't know about relationships. They're stuck in a monastic model. And, you know, like if we didn't have some level of healthy attachment, you know, like it is very hard to be in a long-term committed relationship. And so in the most healthy way, like commitment and attachment and like living a life together and like being on a team together where we have like a common goal, or we build a house together, build a family together, like that's really good. It's really healing, really healthy for families and for relationships. But if we all just kind of like do what we want all the time, it's hard to build something with somebody. It's hard to have like a real, you know, really deep relationship if we're all just doing what we want all the time. And it's hard to coexist together. That's what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying. Now, some people, you know, pull it off where they have real open relationships, but you know, maybe they live together and they build something. So there's got to be some level of trust, attachment, and glue that says, "Hey, like we're in this together. We're in this together. We're walking in the same direction together." Yeah, yeah. Justina, the other thing I can say is attachment. Like when you get a broken heart, we can look at that as a problem, but I like to look at it as like you have the heart of a lover and you're meant to be in relationship. And so it hurts if you're in a relationship that doesn't work out. That hurts and your heart aches. And my heart often would ache for a long, long time afterwards. And I never felt like quite right again until I was like back in relationship. And that's not to say I can't be alone. I actually love being alone. But like if I honor my heart, like I have the archetypal nature of a lover and as a family man. And so it's just like, I'm meant to be in a relationship and family. Well, not meant to be a monk in this lifetime. Not in this lifetime. Ridiculous amount of previous incarnations as a monk, but not this lifetime. And part of me just has come to terms with honoring that, of honoring that. And so sometimes when it hurts so bad, it's because our heart is saying like, hey, like I want to find love and grow in love in a committed way with someone else. And so that goes back to that question of, well, what is my life about? You know, it doesn't always have to be so lofty. It's about spiritual attainment and enlightenment. Sometimes we can admit like, yes, there's that, but also like I want to have a family, or I want to, you know, experience a deep love with a soulmate, you know, type partner. And I want to grow old with someone. It's okay to admit that. And that doesn't have to be some like, you know, crazy egoic thing from the perspective of like being a good Buddhist. That can just be the truth. Truth. You have the heart of a lover and you want to be in a relationship. So anyways, I see there's all kinds of stuff in the chat that I did not get to. I'm not going to get to. And so if you all have a question, we can do this again next week. So much love to you all. I'm trying to think of anything to announce. I'm working on another online retreat at some point, probably in a couple months. I did open up a little bit of time. I don't know if I told anyone that. It might have gotten booked up, but you're welcome to look at the schedule, the online scheduler if you want. I can't think of anything else. So much love to all of you. Good night, everyone. Peace be with you.